In December 1944, American forces were pummeled by German panzer divisions in the Ardennes forest. It was a decisive moment in World War II. Hitler would either succeed in pushing back the approaching Allied armies, or the Germans would be in retreat. The Battle of the Bulge would decide the outcome. Jules Berlinski was an artilleryman with the United States First Army. This is where he met the enemy, on the battlefront. By the end of 1944, the Allied armies in Europe are within striking distance of Germany. Hitler realizes that he must turn them back or risk defeat. He decides that a heavy concentration of troops in one massive effort may be just what he needs. If he can drive the Americans and the British all the way back to the coastline, he may be able to force them into a negotiated peace. Hitler's plans for the offensive are his alone. He even bypasses his trusted commander-in-chief, Field Marshal von Rundstedt, who actually opposes the plan. In the center of the battlefront is a rugged 85-mile area, the Ardennes Forest. Hitler's strategy involves a surprise attack, punching through this weak spot in overwhelming numbers. The Germans will seize several road junctions and river bridges. Then they will drive the Allies to the sea at Antwerp. The offensive, called Autumn Fog II, is dependent on bad weather to keep the Allied air forces out of the equation. Late in October, the Germans begin secretly moving their units to points east of the Ardennes without arousing Allied suspicions. 250,000 Germans roll towards the Western Front.
The planning was such that the Germans threw everything they had into the Battle of the Bulge. They took panzer divisions out of the Russian front. They gave them the highest priority, new tanks, manpower, supplies, gasoline, so that it was like building a new Panzer Army. In fact, it was designated a new Panzer Army, the 6th Panzer Army. And they used every resource they had. This was the great push.
Local villagers fleeing Germany and Luxembourg tell Americans about troop concentrations. Captured German soldiers also reveal that an attack is being mounted. But officers in Allied intelligence refuse to believe it. They all agree the Germans don't have the military strength for such an attack. North of the Ardennes, the Allies have 64,000 men poised on the approaches to Germany's western border. South of the forest, there are another 40,000 troops preparing for an offensive into Germany's Saar region. With the U.S. First Army in the Ardennes is Jules Berlinski.
I was assigned to an artillery division, and we had been chasing the German troops back towards Germany, and you know, going day by day, hedgerow by hedgerow, and it took a lot of time. We were in tanks and in half-tracks. We had tanks with 105 howitzer guns. The weather was atrocious, muddy. You couldn't get the half-tracks to move all the time. It had to be dug out in places, and it would be go and stop, go and stop. Sometimes it would be 2-3 hours before you were able to move ahead again.
The reason why the battle was in the West in the first place was Hitler realized that the resources Germany had could not do anything to turn the tide on the Eastern Front. There were just too many Russians, too many Russian tanks. But on the Western Front, there were more German divisions than Allied divisions, even as late as December of '44. And so Hitler gambled everything on a move to disrupt the Allies in the West, destroy 20 divisions of troops, and then buy time to fight in the East and maybe still win the war.
Early morning on December 16th, a shattering barrage of German artillery and rocket fire lights the skies.
We were mostly living on the ground in foxholes and stuff like that. You just dove into a foxhole and waited for the bombing to be over with.
Gloomy weather for the next several days provides effective cover for the German might that churns over the roads. Panzer units slash through. In the center, the Germans gouge a 12-mile corridor to the approaches of Bastogne. They are ordered to surround and bypass this town, then drive for the Meuse River, their first goal.
We didn't know much of what was happening around us. There was the officers who were giving orders, and we just knew we were in a bad spot.
There is all-out confusion. Communications are sketchy. American troops discovered Germans in front and behind them. Panzers, under cover of fog and rain, slip into American armored columns, then blast the Americans off the road.
We were stuck, we were cold, we were disoriented for a while. They had to pull the division together and reorganize because it was pretty bad.